Good evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program and I thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it when you do that. I feel like, I feel every week that it's definitely worth my time to be here, but it's nice to have the feeling that you're out there. We just celebrated, well, I don't know if you celebrated, but the 17th of September is Constitution Day in the United States of America. And that's when we celebrate the signing in 1787, on September 17th, of our nation's Constitution by those who were representing the individual colonies at that time at the Constitutional Convention. And I'm hoping that we can resume something that friends and I started a few years ago that we no longer are doing. We did for 5 years. But to have an event where we celebrate our Constitution, which gives us so much as individuals. Now, before I left the house tonight, I quickly sat down at my computer and busily typed away a little message that I wanted to share with you as my opener tonight. Here it goes. It seems that we have lost our way, shunning our Constitution, our culture, our morals, religion, and the wholesome principles for living a peaceful and productive life. Of late, it appears that we are a hungry people, longing for nourishment of love, knowledge, opportunity, and pride in our nation and ourselves. We have yearned for leaders of integrity who honor and respect our nation's constitutional founding of strong principles. We hope for a return to national dignity with individual rights and empowerment that are most available to us when government is limited and less controlling of our lives. Sadly, the reality of recent years fosters racism and demeans individual effort, success, and wealth. The primary hope for the future of our nation is that we, the people, stand up and fight to restore pride in our nation and our American flag, our military, Christianity, our individual rights, and our constitutional form of government. The choice is ours to make. That's it, folks. Once again, I'm sharing my thoughts. With that, I have the pleasure of introducing my guest for tonight. Michel Consejo is here with me. Welcome to the show for the first time.
Yes, thank you. The first time with you. The last time I was here, it's probably when Paul was here.
Oh, really?
So, yes.
That's been a lot of years.
It's been a long time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was because of Paul that I'm here. Mm-hmm. He had me on the show once, I think, and I didn't know that he was entertaining thoughts of moving to Florida. Right. Okay, and I had called into his radio show once and had my say, and the next thing I knew, he was saying, "Linda, why don't you take over the show?" And I said, "What?"
Well, he made a good choice.
Well, thank you.
Well, you've been doing it for a long time now, so it must be that
11 or 12 years. Yeah. And I do enjoy it, Michelle, because I feel like there's so much to share with the folks, and I like it when they call in. I encourage people to do that because I want to hear from them. Mm-hmm. If you like what I'm saying, great. If you disagree, then let's talk about it.
The more reason to call if you disagree.
Well, yeah. Or it's kind of nice to know that somebody agrees with you too. So, well, I've known you for
We've known each other for quite a few years.
Now,
that's right.
what years did you serve in?
I started ready to be involved in politics in 2006. So it's about 10 years ago. That was the first. I started in 2005 campaigning, got elected in 2006 served 8 years, so until
Good for you.
2014.
Isn't it a wonderful system where we can do
It
that?
sure is. I mean, it's a wonderful system when a Frenchman like me, a Parisian transplant from France, can actually be elected to represent people that not only have given me a home, a place to make a living. I was a small businessman. It's just a great honor. Only in America, Linda. Only in America. There is no. My parents and I were talking about the system. You know, first my parents could never believe that I was actually a state representative.
I
know,
see.
I mean, it's like you are a state representative.
But you're a citizen.
Oh yes, you can be.
You have to have lived for so long. I think.
You have to have lived 5 years.
Yeah. To become a citizen.
So you first become. This is the way things work for people that do it the right way. Well, I don't know if there is a right way and a wrong way, but there is a legal way and a non-legal way.
That's right.
The legal way is that each country has a certain number of people every year that they are allowed.
Legally.
Yes. So and then there is preference in that. So it took me, because my sister was a U.S. citizen, it took me 2 years to get my permit. But if he hadn't been a direct person, it would have took a lot longer. Like, for example, I've petitioned my oldest son to come here with his wife. And the wait time right now is about 10 years.
Wow.
So it's about 10 years wait if you do it the right way, as opposed to 2 months if you just grab a ticket.
Well, you see, you did it the right way, and you're grateful, you're appreciative, you're a contributor, and that's the way it needs to be.
Yes. That's the way it needs to be. And not only here, not only in the United States, everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, I'm watching my country, France, I'm watching England, Germany's, that have passed the point, Italy, have passed the point of being in control of what's going on.
That's right.
You know, there is a difference between immigration and colonization. Immigration is when people want to come here to assimilate to the system, to become part of that system. Colonization is when people come to any country, not only here but anywhere, and start encouraging their own way of life.
Yes.
That's colonization. That's not immigration.
It's multiculturalism. And that is, you know, a lot of people probably think multiculturalism is a good thing. We're a melting pot in this country. But we expect people to come here legally, respect our laws, respect our people, respect our culture, and not expect us to change our culture because they're here.
Absolutely.
Or to change our laws because they're here. You come, you learn our language.
That should be the first thing.
Absolutely.
America should be definitely English as a first language, nothing else.
Yes, and we have some representation in Washington, D.C. that has voted, one of them voted twice against making English the official language of our country. Another one voted once against it. And the third, I haven't heard, so I don't know that there's anything there about that person. But it is, it's a great country.
Sure is.
But we need to remember who and what we are and stand up for that.
Yes.
And honor it. You know, all of this hoopla about the kneeling at the football games when the national anthem is played, that boils my blood.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, we have...
I have a few words about this that I would not say on TV.
That's good. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
But you know what? These people are making millions of dollars playing a game, and God bless them for that. You have the opportunity, you make it work, good. But then to take a stand because some people aren't in their view, treated fairly. I mean, you know what? Go and help those people. If you want to do something, don't be an affront to the symbol of our country, but go and help those people that you think are downtrodden. You know, do something positive. Anyway, that's enough of that.
I'm not going to cast a judgment on what they do. What I'm sad about myself when I see this happening is that we already live in a very difficult time.
Yes, we do.
We live in a time where the war is at our doors. We live in a time where no matter, it's difficult to make a living. It's hard. We have an opiate problem. There is a lot of difficulty no matter where we go. Sports for a lot of people is one of those sacred places where they go to change their mind, to have fun, to have to be away from the reality of what we have to face every day.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming another place where even the sports fan doesn't have this anymore. And that's a problem because we're slowly chipping at everything that is away from the political side. Everything becomes political.
Yep.
Regardless of your position in it. And I think it's a real problem because once it's like pushing somebody in the corner, and then we're gonna be all surprised that there is a bad reaction. If you push people into a corner and you put too much pressure on anybody, you're bound to have a strong reaction
response,
happening.
yeah. Well,
and I'm concerned about that.
Yes, and a lot of people are now they're not buying tickets to the games.
Right.
They're not turning it on the TV because they feel that this is such an affront to the symbol of our country that so many people have fought and died for.
He would never, I mean, and like I said, I'm not going to say it's good, it's bad for them, but I'm going to tell you why. I would not even think, me, as a U.S. citizen, about not getting up and salute the flag and be respectful. And if I need to say the Pledge of Allegiance, I would not even think twice about it.
Exactly.
This is part of who we are. This is
agree.
part of our nation.
Exactly.
You don't like it, don't do it, but don't put it in my face that I'm bad because I'm doing it.
Yes, exactly. Okay, well, I couldn't help myself because it's right out there in front of us now.
Sure.
It's football season.
That's what I'm saying, where do people go to actually have few hours break from everything else, that we have to deal with?
It's a stress break.
It's sad, it really is.
We need some happy things, right?
We sure do, and we need, everybody say, oh, we should communicate more, we should do this, we should be more tolerant of other people, we should work together. But it starts with very basic things, is that tolerance and compassion is not because you can understand the position of the other person. The real compassion is knowing that there is a problem or a difference and still be compassionate about it. Just because I don't understand why you're suffering, because you're good looking and you have millions of dollars, but yet you are in depression.
I wish.
No, but yet you are in depression and yet you are suffering. I should not stop being compassionate because I don't understand it.
No. I agree with that. It's just a matter of people are deliberately in your face.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of good people in this state and in this country whose not only is it their life's work, their job to help people who are struggling, but people are generous. They give to various organizations. They bring food, like I and many others do to the...
Vermont is one on top of everything.
We do a lot of good, but here is my thought. The best way to help people is not to continue doing for them, but to help them to do for themselves. Because then they can get out of that place with support and guidance and caring. But when you continue to keep a person down by doing everything for them, they're never going to grow.
Are you done? Because
Yes.
then I'm going to tell you, one of the questions I had my entire political career and before that has always been, why did you come here? You was born in Paris. This is supposedly one of the most beautiful.
I love Paris.
Yeah, most beautiful city in the world. Why did you come here in Vermont? And well, there was many reasons. One was family, but the second is that I was a small business owner in France, and I got to the point where I either had to start employing people with me as opposed to be partnering with, or I would have to really become big. And what I was feeling is that we were developing, especially in France at that time, back in the 80s, we were developing generation of permanently assisted people.
Permanently assisted people. Welfare.
I'm not sure if you call it whatever you want, but once you start taking somebody from the cradle to the grave, and to make sure that they are permanently assisted at each level, then you take away their freedom. You cannot be free if you are permanently assisted.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but you're securing votes. So it doesn't matter which party is ahead. If somebody depends on that particular group of people, let's not call them Republican, Independent,
The government.
but the government. If you start depending on the government for everything, you have lost your freedom.
The government controls your life.
That's correct. And you're going to vote, in theory, with the hands that feeds you.
Absolutely.
Because that's a normal reaction. I didn't want to be like this. You know?
Me either.
I did not want to be like that. So I moved to the United States. The problem is that for the first 20 years that I was here, the United States worked out, the system worked out the way it was intended to, the way I pictured it when I moved here. More and more I see that the tendencies are you give everything or you take away everything, and it's like you cannot go either ways. You cannot be taking away everything, but you cannot give everything away either.
No, and you know probably, I, having served on the Health and Welfare Committee in the legislature, learned at that time that Vermont has one of the most generous welfare programs in the country, okay? So and I know for a fact that we have lured people here for those benefits. All right? So what are we doing? It creates a problem, especially, and I'm switching here now a little bit, because you're familiar with sanctuary cities.
Yes.
Okay. And sanctuary states. Well, it looks like our government here in Vermont has decided to protect the illegal workers on our farms by keeping our local police from sharing information with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, all right? You and I both know that it's illegal to hire illegals.
Yes.
All right? So something has to change there. Because what I'm afraid of, and I hope I'm wrong, folks, but what I'm afraid of is that once the word gets out that you can be hired illegally in Vermont to work on farms, and we'll protect you from Immigration and Customs, and we have a great welfare system to to provide all kinds of oh, we have a caller. Great. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello.
Oh, boy. Well,
We
anyway,
have technical difficulties.
our farms are critical.
Yeah.
They are absolutely critical. We need them desperately. And I understand, I mean, we've lost hundreds of farms over the last 20 years or so. And I'm afraid we're going to lose more. And we need our farms. But then again, we have so many people on EBT cards, Medicaid. We went from, let me see, 50, let's see, in 2007, I believe we had 65,000 people in Vermont on welfare, okay? Now we have 205,000. And a lot of that had to do with Obamacare, the states taking the money, but they had to agree to have more people on Medicaid. Now, do we have a caller, or do we not?
He hung up. No, come on, call back.
Do you know the number? Call him back.
Just keep rolling, he'll call back.
Okay, all right.
Okay, well, I don't know if you want to talk to me or just making a statement.
Please.
Well, you throw in a lot of things. Let's start with the...
Start anywhere you want.
Yeah, right. Let's start with the farm. I honestly don't think that most of the farmers that are actually employing immigrants for their farm would be able to find the help that they need.
Oh, I do too.
If it was not for the immigrants. So
You think they wouldn't, or
they would
wouldn't?
not be.
Oh, I think they would.
No,
why?
I can tell you. I mean, it's based on what I know from being a legislator at the time. It's not there.
They'd have to pay them more because they're Americans, okay? And we have a lot of people who are unemployed in this state. Why don't we put the Labor Department and the Agency of Human Services working with one another and having all the jobs listed in a given area, town, whatever, and take that to the Agency of Human Services and have them match people up with the jobs. We have so many people not working.
That's right, but we also have a lot of people that don't want to work.
Well,
And
that's their
not-
problem.
yeah, well,
Now it's our problem.
And those are not all illegal immigrants. They're
I
people.
agree.
You
I
understand
agree.
what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So the thing with those immigrants, those farm workers, is that they work real hard. They don't complain too much because they can't. And some people will say, well, they can't because they're not legal and because, there is some kind of a
Well, they were at
way,
the State House,
right,
the migrant workers.
Right.
Were at the
They
State
are.
House
That's true. And but
to get the driver's privilege card.
they do, and I did vote for that. Because if somebody's going to drive, I like to know who it is. Because, Linda, there are things that you can control and things you can't. And no matter how much we would like to control it, if somebody's going to drive, how many people drive with suspended license?
They wouldn't have a car.
How many people drive with suspended license?
A lot of them.
You open the paper. There's 2 pages. DSL, DLS, DLS, DLS.
I agree.
Okay, so people, they're not supposed to, but they're still driving.
And we're letting them.
So what are we doing? What
So
can
we
we
should
do?
create more
I don't know, but what can we do?
about those driving with a license suspended, or about the
both.
farmer?
The farmers, if they're going to drive, I like to know who they are and what they're driving. Yes, I do, actually. That's why I voted for that particular piece of legislation.
Well, we're giving citizen benefits to people who are here illegally, okay? Are they getting food stamps? Are they getting...
No, they should be.
Are they getting...
No. No, not
EBT
the,
cards?
no. I mean, you're asking me a question that I really honestly don't know the answer
I'm
for
not sure either. So
You know, so my guess would be no, because in order to do that, I don't know, Linda, but I had to fill up some paperwork. My dad recently passed away.
sorry to hear that.
That was a year ago. And in order for my mom to get some of the benefits, because she was not making a lot of money,
Where were they living?
they were living in Richmond.
Oh, here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They were living in Richmond. So in order for that, and they are U.S. citizens as well. But in order for her to collect the very minimal stuff, just to transfer one thing to the other, the amount of paperwork that you need to make, and the justification, and proof of this, and proof of that. And I'm thinking, how can people do all this first on their own, and second, get the stuff without being discouraged about it? There is something that I don't understand in how people can actually get all those EBT cards, food stamps, fuel assistance, rental rebates.
Well,
how can they get all this with all the paperwork? Who's filling this paperwork
all
for
you
them?
have to do is apply for one thing, and you'll get the government, our government, will guide you on how to get the other benefits.
Must be, because I tell you what, I had nightmares about the whole thing. I did, and I know, and I'm fairly intelligent,
Yeah.
and I know people, and I had to make phone calls.
Maybe this is why the president wants to simplify the tax code.
I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
Me too.
I'm all for simplifying
course.
taxes.
Although, yeah, well, he wants it so simple that you can just easily fill out your tax forms. But then there are a lot of accountants who aren't going to like that.
Well, yeah, yeah.
So, you know, it's like a seesaw. You fix one and you hurt another, you know.
You know, the thing is that I think there is a lot of good ideas and a lot of good principles in both parties in the United States. What I perceive as being the problem lately is, in the past few years, has been that one side, whoever side happened to have the controls, wants to impose the other side their view. So you have a give and take. Oh, I have the power, so I put that on. Well, I have a power now, so I take it out. And who's paying for this is you and I.
I like what you're saying, because what the focus should be, regardless of your political party, what the focus should be in the Congress or even at the state level is what is in the best interest, not of the people who provide money for your campaign, not for anything other than it's between you and the citizens and the business people and so forth. But when you start getting people who are in elected office, who I say are bought and paid for, and they're all over the place, it doesn't matter what party you're from, that has to stop. The integrity has to come back into the picture. That's what they owe the people of this country.
But you know, you would think that after a while, somebody that is paying a little bit of attention will understand that their state rep or their senators or even their congressmen, you are able to look at that and say, wait a minute, every single time that particular issue comes up, whatever that is, this is a vote that happened. Now, why is that? What's that? Why? You know, what I like the most about you, I mean, we have our difference, and obviously we don't. But you're consistent. You're consistent. You ask questions. You say why, and saying why normally create some kind of a response,
Yes,
even if it's not the
definitely.
response we want. But asking the question is perfectly legitimate.
Well, I like to learn.
I like that.
I like to learn. I'm pretty solid in my views because they're fundamentals based on the founding of our country. I love about this country that we have individual opportunity and empowerment if we have strong families to guide the children in their younger years by example, by modeling behaviors, work ethic, respect, and so forth. And then get them into schools where they're taught about our country and they learn why the founding of this country is so important to their lives and their future as they become an older person who is looking to make a life. Mm-hmm. Okay? You have freedom and opportunity in this country. That is so unique in the world.
It is.
And we should be thanking the good Lord, just and grateful that we have these opportunities. And the founders gave them to us. But we're losing ground as I see it. And it breaks my heart because we have so much focus on the crybabies at the college campuses and you know, and the women, oh my gosh, we're tread upon and what? Get over yourself and get a life.
How do you really feel about it?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you later.
Don't hold.
I'll tell you later. No, really. I mean, I lost my mom when I was fairly young. You know, my dad died several years later. I was in a divorce and I had 2 children and I had nothing to work with. I hadn't finished my college. You know, I had no money, no job. Mm-hmm. My husband didn't want me working. And so here I am with 2 children to take care of and no degree and no job and so forth. So what did I do? You know, who was it up to? Was I going to run up to the, to the welfare department and say, hey, please take care of me? No, because I was raised, it's your responsibility.
At first, anyway. You may end up having to need help. And that's where the difference is that there is helping and there is entitling.
Exactly.
And that's really 2 different things. If your first reaction is to look for somebody else to go and pay your bill, go to work for you and do something like that, that's totally different than trying on your own and being helped because you can't.
It never occurred to me for one moment to go anywhere for help because I knew it was my job. Because I was raised with a strong work ethic, personal responsibility, and I think, thank God, my mother was tough. She was loving, but she was tough. My dad was a great guy, too. He was a hard worker. But my mom taught me lessons about work. Mm-hmm. I always had jobs at home, and when I was old enough, I babysat, and then I worked in a bakery when I was in high school. But those lessons built up my self-confidence, my view of myself as someone able to accomplish things, my self-esteem, mm-hmm. all of those things, so that when the hard times came, and they do.
Yes, in everybody.
Everybody and I'm not saying everybody has to do what I did, mm-hmm. but I'm saying it can be an option. You know, you go back to school, mm-hmm. right? You get a job. You do both at the same time and you take care of your kids.
And that's where government has a role to play. Because, yes, if you go back to school and you need help to do that, then you should have some help. We are all
you get a loan. You can get a loan.
You know, or you could get, based on whatever. And I'm with you on this. You know, I never relied on anybody to make my paycheck. I mean, I worked for myself basically my whole entire career, except when I worked for JPIC for 3 or 4 years. But not everybody can do that.
I
not
understand.
Everybody has that.
Everybody didn't
right.
get that kind of
right.
upbringing
right.
where you say, was I scared? You bet I was.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it all worked out, and I got my nursing degree, and, I have 2 highly productive children, and I'm not saying we're all the same. You know who said, oh dear, when he was running, our former lieutenant governor, I should be thinking of his name.
Doobie?
Thank you, Brian Doobie, said welfare should be a hammock, a trampoline, not a hammock. It's a good visual.
It's a good visual.
To trampoline you from here to there, but not a hammock for you to stay in. You know?
I'm not sure if there is, I looked into this because, to some extent I don't share all the vision of my own party. So I looked into a lot of it. A lot of it is not money coming out of the state of Vermont. That's true that a lot of the money is federal money for LAHIP, which help with paying the fuel and EBT, that is food stamps. A lot of it is federal money, so one will say, well, federal money is not really our money. It is our money because we all pay in the federal system, but we don't have control over it. This is a requirement that they have. If you qualify for those requirements, you do get that. That's.
When your country has just passed the $20 trillion mark of debt.
Did we pass that?
Yes, we did.
Oh, wow.
20.
Did you have to tell me that? No, I'm
Yes,
going to have
I did.
nightmares.
$20 trillion in debt. Right now, your country. And China and Japan own some of that. So we're vulnerable. All right? We're spending money we don't have. And in Congress, regardless of who has, right now, nobody has the power. It's a seesaw, okay? But they need to be respecting we the people by not spending money we don't have. But a lot of them have a dilemma because they get elected because they support spending for certain programs.
Right. And
Okay.
that's why you see some Republicans not being able to support some of the Republican agenda. It's because at the end of the day, when they go back home, they're going to, people back home are going to say, listen, that didn't work for me.
Yep, and it works, it works both ways. I don't know how we get out of that.
Term limits. Do you want an answer? It's term limits. Because if you look at Senator McCain right now, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree, I'm not making a judgment on what he's doing, but no, I am totally convinced that Senator McCain is voting what he thinks is right. Because he doesn't have any agendas anymore. He knows he's going to die. He admittedly so. He's going to die, and he doesn't support the plan because he doesn't think that's the right way to do it. Fine. But if everybody was under that set of circumstances that if you're there for 12 years...
Or 40 years.
No, but let's say we term limit them at 12 years. 2 terms in the Senate, 6 years.
Yep.
All right? If you're there for 12 years, it's not the same as trying to be there for 12 years and then to be there another 12 years. Your thinking, your voting is going to be different because of this.
Excuse me.
So, term limits, certainly. Now, are they ever going to vote term limits? No, because that's they be the one telling themselves, you cannot be here forever. This is a good gig. This is a good gig.
Yeah, they don't have the same insurance that we do.
It's a great gig. You're kidding?
They're feathering their own nests left and right. I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know.
What did you just say?
Term limits. We were talking about term limits.
I have a solution. Thank you. How about if the states all vote for term limits?
I don't know.
It's not
We probably could, but I mean...
It would put such pressure on them.
Yeah, but we should start here. I mean, term limits should be applying in Vermont as well. I mean, 2 years for a governor is not enough. I personally think that we should elect a governor for 4 years.
Well, we're one of the few states that only has them for 2.
I don't think that's a good deal for Vermonters because, it takes a long time for a governor to get
Into
all
this.
the people and all the heads of departments and this and that. And by the time you get your cruising speed, it's time to campaign again.
Yeah.
So I think that the governor, lieutenant governor, and all those positions should be 4 years. But as far as the others, certainly we should have limit for the senators and the state rep. And you know, the answer is always, oh, well, we have a term limit. If you don't like him, vote him out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
That doesn't work in this state.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered quite a few topics already. Let's see. What about, let me see.
Let's talk about Lake Carmine,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No, of course not. Go
Because
ahead.
I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of people I have a lot of respect for on both sides of the aisle that are really, really, really crying foul and to the right with reasons. I mean, I went to look at Lake Carmine and it's just unbelievable to think that we have let something develop to the point where you can't even put your foot in, never mind swimming in it, but you can't even put your feet in Lake Carmine right now. It's closed. This is Vermont, for Christ's sake.
Used to be beautiful.
This is Vermont.
We used to go camping there in the summer.
It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
All right.
So
Go ahead.
let's think about what could be done. Well, let me tell you, I'm not going to point any fingers, but let me tell you something. I went kayaking 2 years ago down by Killington, and it was fall of the year, so if they had to have algae, they would have it by then. And all the lake were crystal clear. A little bit of milfoil, you know, stuff like that, which is not perfect, but it's not blue-green algae. I was in the North Country on Lake Eden and Lake Echo and Lake Seymour. All those lakes are crystal clear. What's the difference?
Well, I was going to ask you, because it comes down, before you can find a solution, you have to identify a cause.
So what's the difference between down there? Well, I can tell you what's the difference. There is no farmer on any of those lakes. No farmland. No farmland that is being tilled.
Is it considered that phosphorus is the cause?
85% of what, and those are not my numbers. So don't, you know, I would hate to see tomorrow somebody saying, well, you know, you said 85% and it's 82.5. So those are not my numbers, but this is what I've read. 85% of the pollution on Lake Carmine and the bay is attributed to farm runoff.
Okay, now I have a question, because I've heard at some point that the sewer treatment plant, and correct me if you
Sure, go
know
ahead.
if I'm wrong, but I think that the sewage comes into the plant, it's treated, and then some of it goes back out into the lake. Is that right?
Yes.
So there could, I'm not saying there is.
3%. When I was a state rep, and again, those are numbers that I give you from 3 years ago. They calculate about between 3 and 4% of the pollution that was on Lake Champlain could be attributed to sewage plants.
Okay. Well, so there have been some efforts, as I understand it, to change the farming habits with, not bunkers, what do you call them?
Buffer zones.
Buffer zones. What I question is the liquid manure. Not only, I mean, I have farm down below me, and I always know when they're spreading the manure.
Totally.
I have company coming tomorrow. They're probably going to get a dose of it too. But I think there needs to be a coming together of the people who are concerned, and maybe some of the farmers are concerned as well. But there has to be research done. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this. This may be pertinent or not, but Lake Erie had a big problem.
I remember that.
And they solved it. So what do we know about what they did, what the causes were for them?
Michigan had a big problem.
Pardon me?
Lake Michigan had a big problem back in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, who in Vermont has looked into what they did there, what kind of bacteria they had, where it was coming from, and then what they were able to do to solve the problem? We may have an answer there or maybe not, but it's certainly worth...
I don't want to point the fingers. Don't take me wrong. I'm not pointing the fingers at farmers. I could tell you that I visited farmer on Lake Carmine. Magnon Farm, for example, is somebody that does a magnificent job at trying to control what's going into.
Sure they do.
There is a lot of farmers that are doing magnificent job, and as much as they can in order to control this. The problem is that I kayak. I do some kayaking. So I kayak from Richford to Berkshire, and from Berkshire to Innisbrook on the Missisquoi River. And I can tell you that as you go through and you look at the cornfield, you can see the cornfields that have 50 feet buffer zone, and you can see the cornfields that have been planted right close to the Missisquoi River. Now, that's illegal. There is already laws in the books in Vermont that say you cannot plant closer than 50 feet from the... And you should have actually some kind of...
buffer zone.
Some planted, not just dirt, planted. So there will be something to retain the runoff, to absorb it before it goes to the river. This is not applied. This is not made. We have laws in the books that are not already... What's the point of making more laws if we cannot even enforce the one we have?
We're not enforcing our immigration laws in this country.
And that's the point. I mean, go back to the things that are already in the books before you start putting more.
Exactly. So, a little bit of common sense goes a long way, Mike, yes. Michel, I should say. It's a big problem.
Yes.
And a lot of Vermont's dollars come from tourism.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'll add one more element to this conversation. I have long said that it's not only what's going on with our waters, but people won't come here if they can't swim or boat without feeling jeopardized. But also, who's going to come and look at windmills on our ridge lines and solar panels on our farms? You have great, expansive, beautiful farmland. You have the Green Mountains. I mean, they're just beautiful. But when you start doing things to our natural resources that are not natural, then I think you create more problems than you solve. That's my personal view.
Well, it could be. I mean, I'm all for windmills and things. Where you put the windmills is a question. You should certainly not put windmills where they're not welcome. If a community tells you, no, we don't want windmill, don't insist, go someplace else.
I agree with that.
I mean, it's like...
I agree with that.
Seems to me like it's a no-brainer.
But Vermont is a tourism state.
It is.
And we bring in a fair amount of dollars to the state for all the things that we want to do here. And I think that we're taking a risk by, what's the word? What would be a great word? Just by jeopardizing those dollars coming into the state because we're not treating our natural resources with respect.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, Lake Carmine, the state park at Lake Carmine is the biggest one in the state. Mm-hmm. It's the one that brings the most money.
Really?
Yeah. And it's closed.
Yeah. Okay, well, who You have the Department of Environmental Conservation. So, you know, do we need to call them and say, what are you doing?
Well, you know, I don't think they should put $250,000 into injecting oxygen in the lakes. That's what they're going to do. They're going to spend $250,000. ANR going to spend $250,000 injecting oxygen to regenerate the thing. At this point, it's too late. It's too little, too late. We're gonna spend that money for nothing.
Guess what? Millions of dollars have been in the past put into Lake Champlain from New York, Canada, and Vermont.
Yeah.
And we still have some problems. But
I would, if it was me at this point, I mean, and you know, who cares? Nobody listens anyway. But
I'm listening.
it's just the two of us.
The two of us.
So here's $250,000. There is 6 farms around Lake Carmine. 6 farms that I know of. It seems to me like it would almost be better to devise that money and to go to each farm and say, here, we give you $45,000 and we're going to help you at least try to stop some of the stuff from going to your farm into the lake.
That sounds practical.
You know, that sounds to me like it would be a better use of the money.
Okay, I like that thinking. My follow-up question would be then, what do you do about the problem that already exists in the lake? Now, I looked up cyanobacteria because there was an article by Judith McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Okay, so I looked it up today. The cyanobacteria creates oxygen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
From the sun. It uses photosynthesis from the sun.
Most algae do that.
And this one in particular anyway, and it is a blue-green algae. Cyanobacteria is a blue-green algae.
Yeah.
So there have to be scientists
Of course there is.
who know, you know, get down to the nitty-gritty of trying to find solutions that we can keep our farms, keep them viable, and still have a clean lake.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for keeping the farm viable.
Me too.
You know, I mean, especially in Franklin County. I mean, Sheldon, the town that one of the towns I used to represent, has the most farm in the whole state. So it's certainly not me saying anything negative about farm, but we have to call a cat and a cow a cow.
Okay.
And, you know.
All right. On another topic, because
Yes.
we're running out of time.
Okay.
All right. I just read in the St. Albans Messenger that St. Albans will have a marijuana dispensary.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that I learned...
Now, is that they will have that if the dispensary, so that means they're going to have it regardless of what happens if it becomes legal or not, because dispensary is going to be only for medical purposes.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have some information here about...
Well, you know, medical purpose marijuana, no problem. I think that people should have the option.
Well, when I served on the Health and Welfare Committee, it was the time when they wanted to legalize marijuana use for medical conditions. And I think it was our current Lieutenant Governor who was saying that, this will help glaucoma and all these other things. And so I called up an ophthalmologist that I knew, and I said, tell me about any data relative to, marijuana helping glaucoma. And he said, there is data, and what it shows is that in order to get any benefit from marijuana for that problem, you would have to be so looped on the marijuana. I mean, you'd have to have so much of it that it's not worth it. But what was I going to say? We had committee testimony from the Drug Enforcement Agency, as well as Kerry Sleeper, who was the excuse me, the head of public safety for the state of Vermont. Long story short, both of them were emphatic that marijuana is a gateway drug to other drugs.
True. If it's smoked, I mean, it's been
But they don't want Marinol, a pill.
Well, medically, it shouldn't make any difference. I mean, there should be. I mean, if you're treating seizure, it's probably way better to have a liquid or a pill than it is to try to give the kid a joint. All right. So I'm sure it's not happening. So the people that are using it medically, I think I'm personally not against it, and I think it's just. You know, I think a lot of progress have been made. That now you can certainly get some form of cannabis that will. I mean, let's face it. Some of the pills you can buy legally, you know, are opioids, 10 times worse. And you know, when you can buy some of the pills that are manufactured by pharmaceutical.
Oh yeah.
That are.
They're a problem.
Yeah.
Well, children are being born addicted to opiates.
I've seen those.
There's 6,800 people being treated for opiate addiction. The actual number of addicts in Vermont not seeking treatment may be 50 to 20,000 people. I got this out of an article. In the U.S., in 1 year, nearly 1.3 million Americans needed hospital care for opiate-related issues. That was in the Messenger and the Washington Post.
Sad. Sad.
I mean, how bad does your life have to be to get yourself into a state like that? Young people don't know any better, although we need to be educating them. Oh, a high, you know, wow, that feels good, you know, until you don't feel good anymore, right? So there are other things. We're down to 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Anything you want to make sure you say?
No, I thank you for having me here. I enjoyed our conversation. And I hope that the people that are going to be watching your show enjoy it as much as I did.
Well, good. I enjoyed it too, Michel. And maybe you'll come back another time.
Absolutely. You say the word.
There's always plenty to talk about. I have. You know what? I'm happy about a lot of things. Life isn't perfect. Mm-hmm. We all have our...
Well, if we wait for life to be perfect to be happy, that's never going to happen.
Amen to that. We have to deal with less than perfection. But I am happy to do this show, and I am just moved, touched. My heart is touched by the fact that nobody ever says no when I ask them to come on.
Oh, no, certainly not. Certainly
you know, they really like to come on, and that makes me happy.
Thank you for doing the show.
Oh,
we appreciate
gosh, you don't need to do that, but you're welcome. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. It was fun to be here tonight with Michel, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you again next week. Have a great week. Good night.